From the heart of South Asia to the crossroads of Central Asia, from the turbulent Middle East and North Africa to the power corridors of the West, where narratives collide, perspectives matter, and stories connect. This is Beyond Borders, and I'm Umar Khalid Butt. During the course of tonight's show, as well as all the shows before us, we bring you into a world which we consider without borders and boundaries, and of course, discuss stories and issues that are extremely pertinent in this changing 21st century scenario. We'll begin with the top stories of the day, or as we call them, region lines. We start from the Middle East, where the Israeli army launches a new round of extensive strikes in Iran, targeting government and military infrastructure. Also, Iran has attacked 7 oil vessels using drone boats and sea mines, escalating strikes on Gulf energy routes. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian outlines 3 key conditions for ending the ongoing war, saying it can only end with the recognition of Tehran's legitimate rights and firm international guarantees against future aggression. Moving on, the Iran-US-Israel conflict is creating urgent environmental and economic hazards for Pakistan, including risks of acid rain, air pollution from attacked oil facilities, and severe fuel shortages. Pollutants from burning oil facilities in Iran are feared to cross into Pakistan, potentially leading to toxic atmospheric conditions. And lastly, Pakistan's military continues its effective operations against the Afghan Taliban and Fitna al-Khawarij along the Pak-Afghan border. According to security sources, Pakistan Army targeted Afghan Taliban posts adjacent to Tal sector and Job sector on the Pak-Afghan border. Tonight, the US-Iran-Israel conflict enters its 13th day with no clear exit ramp in sight. Airstrikes and counterstrikes are now being matched by a widening humanitarian and strategic crisis. Millions are displaced inside Iran, mounting civilian casualties across the region, attacks on energy and shipping infrastructure, and fresh instability in the Strait of Hormuz. At the United Nations, the Security Council backs one resolution condemning Iranian attacks on the Gulf states, while a separate Russian-backed push for a broader de-escalatory framework is blocked, exposing deep divisions among major powers. For Pakistan, this is no longer a distant war. It is a test of diplomacy, regional balance, energy security, and whether international law can still restrain escalation before the region slips into a much larger confrontation. We have the honor of having with us to discuss on this very important issue Mr. Munir Akram. He's a former Pakistani permanent representative to the United Nations and joins us from the DC in Washington in the US. Mr. Akram, thank you very much to have joined us. On day 13 of this war, are we witnessing a conflict that has already moved beyond Iran and Israel into a full regional security emergency?
Well, I think that's obvious. The war is now certainly a war that has engulfed the whole region, including the Arab states of the Gulf, including impacts beyond the region into the international oil and energy markets. And soon, I think the impact will be felt throughout the global economy as well. So yes, it's a war that is wider, is widening with every day, and its impacts are getting more intense and more alarming by the day.
Mr. Akram, Mujtaba Khamenei addressed, in fact, the entire globe through a voice message that was transmitted across the different media channels. How do you see the different points that he has highlighted?
Well, I think the Iranian position now is fairly clear. They have suffered the worst kind of damage that they could suffer. Most of the infrastructure is destroyed, except for the oil facilities to some extent. And now their determination seems to be to continue the war and to escalate the economic pain on the United States and on the international community, including the Gulf Arab states, who are also being attacked by Iranian missiles and drones. So the Iranians aim to continue this war and escalate the pain for the rest of the world community, especially those who started this war.
Pakistan and Munir Akram Saab has supported the Bahrain-led Security Council resolution condemning Iranian attacks on the Gulf states, but it also backed the Russian draft seeking a wider cessation of hostilities. Was that Pakistan trying to preserve balance, principle and diplomatic space? What's your take?
Well, I think our position was the correct position. It was a position which is aligned with UN principles. Obviously, we regret the attacks which have come from Iran on the Gulf states. If these had been limited only to U.S. Military bases, that would be one thing, but the Iranian attacks have gone beyond. They've attacked the civilian targets as well, which is not acceptable. So we've supported that resolution, but we also supported the other resolution moved by Russia, which called for a general cessation of hostilities and an end to the conflict which the U.S. and Israel have started. And it is most surprising and disappointing that this resolution only commanded 4 votes in the Security Council, which is just an indication that of the pressure that has been applied on the other members of the Security Council to abstain or vote against the Russian resolution, which was, in my view, the right proposal at this time. There must be a call for a ceasefire. The Security Council is the prime forum for the maintenance of international peace and security, and it is very disappointing that this resolution calling for an end to a unilateral use of force and aggression could command only 4 votes.
You spoke of Russia, Munir Akram Saab. Now, Russia is also openly pushing for a return to negotiations. In your view, does Moscow still have some leverage as far as this crisis is concerned, or is its role more symbolic than decisive? What's your take?
Well, I think it certainly has some leverage. It is a major power. It has supported Iran materially. But I don't think that the Russian efforts to revive negotiations will succeed at this time, not only because they may not be acceptable to Israel and the U.S., but more importantly, I think the Iranians are not ready for a ceasefire at this moment, at least not on the terms that are being offered. Their terms have been spelled out, which include, of course, a compensation for damage and admission of the fact that this was a unilateral aggression, and so forth. So I don't think the Russian efforts, even if they are sincere, are likely to move forward at least at this stage.
All right. The Iranian president has laid down 3 conditions, Munir Akram Saab, for ending the war: recognition of Iran's legitimate rights, reparations, and firm guarantees against future aggression. Are these 3 realistic negotiating terms or effectively wartime political messaging?
Well, I don't think that Iran realistically expects that these terms will be acceptable to the United States or to Israel. But given the situation, it certainly is a statement of position to show its resilience and its strength and its determination to continue this war unless it receives a dignified and just settlement of the conflict.
Munir Akram Saab, UNHRC in fact reports up to 3.2 million displaced people inside of Iran and heavy civilian losses also, as per other reports across multiple theaters. Do you think the humanitarian dimension is still being overshadowed by the military narrative?
Yes, of course. I think international political attention at the moment is totally focused on the war, on the conduct of the war, including the Iranian action to block the Strait of Hormuz. I think most of the Western focus, the U.S., Iran, Gulf focus is to see how to open the Strait of Hormuz. And from the Iranian side, obviously, their focus is on how to keep going, how to keep the barrage of missiles and drones going, despite the aerial superiority of the other side in this conflict.
All right, you talked about the Strait of Hormuz, Munir Akram Saab. It has become central as far as this crisis is concerned, with tanker attacks, mining fears, naval escort discussions. Does this make maritime security the most dangerous escalation point as we speak?
Well, it is certainly, from the point of view of the Iranians, this is the greatest leverage that they have at this time in the conflict, because they are suffering the bombardment and attacks that are being imposed on them by the U.S. and Israel. And at the same time, they are able to impose economic cost mostly through blocking Strait of Hormuz and blocking the flow of oil and food and other supplies to and from the Gulf, and this is going to have a major impact. Already has. The oil has gone over $100 per barrel. There are projections it could go over to 130, 150. So at that level, the impact on the U.S. economy, on the Europeans, on East Asia, on other countries will be huge. And Iran is banking on the fact that this cost that it can impose on the international economy and the U.S. will mobilize support for ending the war on terms that are acceptable to Iran.
Finally, sir, this is my last question to you. If the United Nations Security Council remains divided, Washington continues to resist broader de-escalatory language, where can a serious peace initiative realistically come from?
Well, I think sooner or later, the U.S. and Israel will be able to say we have achieved all our objectives, we have destroyed all the targets, and they can declare victory and stop the war. I think President Trump has hinted at that 2 days ago, that we have almost completed our objective, military objectives, and so forth, so they can stop the war. But I'm afraid that the Iranians may not agree to stop the war until they feel that the other side has experienced the pain that they want to, the economic pain that they want to impose. So at some stage, if the Americans are willing to stop the war, then perhaps efforts could be made with the Iranians to find terms on which they would be willing to stop firing their missiles and drones as well. Otherwise, you could find a situation where if America does not get a face-saving off-ramp, they may decide to double down and escalate the war, and do something like some form of physical intervention, try to capture the Hormuz Strait, try to extract the uranium from the Iranians, or try to foment insurgencies in Khuzestan and the Azerbaijan population, the Kurds or the Baluchis. These are also options that could be activated if the Americans see that they are not able to have a face-saving way of ending this war.
All right. Thank you very much, Munir Akram Saab, to have given us such a broad outlook as far as your point of view on this current situation is concerned from the different angles, international, national, and regional. Thank you, sir, to have joined us. Let's now take you to South Asia. The war between the United States, Israel, and Iran is not only a geopolitical crisis, it is rapidly becoming an environmental emergency with direct consequences for Pakistan. The Persian Gulf, already fragile, now faces a threat of oil spills, chemical leaks, massive carbon emissions from modern warfare. With nearly 20% of global energy shipments passing through the Strait of Hormuz, any attack on tankers or refineries could trigger an ecological damage that could last for decades. For Pakistan, already among the most climate vulnerable countries in the world, well. The consequences could reach our shores through polluted waters, disrupted fisheries, rising fertilizer prices, and worsening climate instability. This conflict reminds us that war today does not only destroy cities, it destabilizes ecosystems, economies, and the climate itself. Now, to discuss that in more detail, we've been joined by Asad Mahmood. He is a climate change expert, joins us right here in the studios. Asad, thank you very much to have joined us. Yeah. Asad, how serious is this air quality threat to Pakistan from the pollution that is potentially drifting from across the border after attack on Iran's oil refineries?
Well, it's serious enough to monitor, but not yet a reason to panic across Pakistan, specifically like the areas near the western side of Pakistan. They might be the one where the vulnerable ones are going to get its impact. But again, at the end of the day, like we need to look into the broader spectrum, and especially like the PMD Meteorological Department also has given a caution that yes, there are chances, or the air pollution may carry over from the devastation which is happening there. So the air pollution, or you can say, it depends upon the nature and type of chemicals and oil being burnt over there. So the harmful particles also vary at the end of the day. So it's a danger for the full ecosystem, be air, soil, or water. So if nobody is getting affected today, but in future it can contaminate your food chains, your water supplies, and we have to look into it into a longer perspective. And if it takes longer time period to settle all these disputes, and with the repeated strikes, this pollution footprint may increase with the passage of time.
You're talking of possibilities. Let's talk of one. If there is a major oil spill or a chemical leak during this conflict, how could it affect the marine ecosystems across the Gulf as well as the Arabian Sea?
Yeah, definitely that is something, a point it is very serious for not only from the marine perspective, but the people who are associated with the full blue economy, in fact, you can say. No, it is not going to happen overnight, but oil spills, and again, with the increasing temperature, you can see like the oil is ultimately going to settle in the shelves, and your coral and mangroves are going to get affected, and again, like the breeding platform or grounds are going to get disturbed. So it's a full disturbance which one can foresee coming up. But again, there have been earlier instances where such things happened, but we have I think Pakistan must learn or quickly adopt those practices which have to be there in place in case it escalates, or if the scales get big and big.
All right, Asad, what are the challenges that Pakistan is facing or could face as a result of whatever is happening around us?
Well, all this, the present state of affairs is basically pushing us towards redefining the national security aspects. And again, as you have just mentioned at the starting rationale, that it's a full ecosystem that is being disturbed, and what will happen is that all the budget, and what is started happening, in fact, you can see in developed countries and developing countries, they have started diverging their budget towards the security aspects rather than investing on the adaptation side, for which we have been speaking about vulnerability a lot. True. So that's the biggest dent where we are going to see in the upcoming days.
All right. Could pollution or oil contamination in the Gulf eventually reach Pakistan's coastline? Is it an eventuality, or is it a possibility?
I can go with the both, but you can say it's not going to happen overnight. It's a full flow pattern and cycle you have to study, because this Gulf countries are landlocked, and again, like you can say, the bathtub effect is happening over there, because all the pollution which is there, the natural refreshing of the ocean's water is going to get through the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, you can say, so that's the bottom of the sink, you can say. So so that refreshing rate, it depends upon that. And similarly, with the raise in temperature, some is going to evaporate and become part of the air pollution, and some is going to get through the coastal line, and the likelihood could be there, but it all depends again upon like the nature of the chemicals and the things which are spreading around.
Also, modern warfare, Asad, produces enormous carbon emissions. For Pakistan, that is already an extremely susceptible or vulnerable countries when it comes to the effects of climate change, and of course the region beyond it as well. Don't you think such modern warfare that is affecting our region and also beyond the Middle East is going to affect the global warming, B, regional air quality?
Yeah, global warming is something like it is not going to happen with this one incident, but it is going to set its mark. Like it will have an impact, but in the longer run, it could like we need to focus on the regional aspects first of all, regional footprint, pollution footprint, whatsoever it is going to impact at the end of the day. And similarly, the wars are quite carbon intensive, and similarly, like no tanks are net zero, or so that's something like we have to be cognizant of this fact as well. That and then definitely, like the military and these energy, national security needs not to be compromised. Then once you give that priority, some people also say that it doesn't matter whether it's nitrogen or hydrogen coming up, you have to first of all live with it. But another incident I would just like to pitch upon is while consulting with the people living in Ghanche, just at the border of our neighboring country. So they were saying that we have to be trained that in terms of climate adaptation, if GLOF events come, similarly in terms of nuclear strike, where to go. We don't have the bunkers in our homes, so do we need to redesign our homes apart from adaptation or climate resilience aspect, from this war aspect as well, as we see in certain countries they are having the bunkers by default within their home designs. So
when you talk of Ghanche, you talk of GLOF. So I'd like to understand, with GLOF risks, landslides, severe weather is predicted in northern Pakistan, because you talked about the Met Department also that has issued this warning, and has also talked about the effects of this war that could, trickle down into Pakistani air as well. How prepared are we as a nation to respond to potential climate-related emergencies, and what kind of precautionary steps do you feel as a climate expert should the citizens, farmers and social administrators take during this very period of unstable weather and potential environmental impact because of the war?
Yeah, like you might have witnessed that the advisories have been issued by national disaster management authorities and the provincial or district disaster management institutions that the risk of GLOF is coming up, and the people in those areas, they have to be vigilant about that, and specifically the tourists as well, that like you can say the swollen streams are not like sightseeing points every time. You have to be, first of all, your security aspects have to be looked into, and then similarly in terms of local citizens, they have to keep their like sort of food ration and all the things which are required in terms of emergency, be it in the form of monetary aspects, food commodities and rescue kits, first aid kits. That is something that has to be ensured, and similarly ample supply of food has to be ensured by the district management with medical supplies and alternate routes if something happens, so where the people can get, or those agencies which are there to facilitate in this disaster aspects, from where they are going to get the access to those vulnerable areas through road, through air. So all these arrangements have to be done in time, and it's not like once you into the battlefield and then you start asking for the fuel and others, because speeches can work out, but dried dams and polluted water streams are not going to safeguard.
Asad, does this crisis, in your point of view, highlight the need to redefine national security when it comes to climate and environmental risks that countries like Pakistan have, especially, for under the current circumstances when we see a lot happening around us?
Yeah, like I just mentioned that under national security, you need to have like different tiers of it, like be it energy security, as we are facing the issue of high escalated prices. That is also impacting bringing inflation and high food costs, and livelihood is getting affected out because of this, and that also increases the vulnerability. So we don't have that adaptive capacity. So our fuel reserves, or play a significant role in all these scenarios where the oil prices shoot up. So the relevant public departments have to play their role as well. It should not be on ad hoc basis.
I agree. But there's another possibility, which is a more dangerous one. That is, if these attacks target nuclear or uranium enrichment facilities, as has been said by certain quarters, what environmental dangers do you predict could arise for the broader region?
Yeah, it would be a sad state of affairs, but as the International Atomic Energy Agency, in fact, they have been saying that like these nuclear facilities should not be the battleground, because it's not going to impact the local society, it's going to impact the region as a whole, and then the radiations, they don't need the immigration passports, or there's a transboundary scenario aspect which don't see the borders around.
Of course.
So it is going to bring a lot of trouble in the area, but again, like so one has to look into the war principles as well, that we need not to damage the infrastructure that is going to if it is not going to hurt the politicians, then masses are going to get impacted.
All right, final question, Asad. The Strait of Hormuz is under a lot of pressure, tension as well. Ships are not being allowed to pass by. How does that, or how could that affect food security and agriculture in Pakistan?
Yeah, like if you read the supply chains, and in terms of fertilizer, for example, so if the farmer gets affected by two things, by high prices of fuel, and then secondly the fertilizer which he has to buy, and if he's not getting at economical prices, so at the end of the day his margin gets squeezed, and ultimately the full market distortion could be seen down the line. So I think like the government has to look into this thing, but as far as the reports I've seen the reports, or like we have enough fertilizer stock available, and the gas which was allocated for the fertilizer has been allocated for for the domestic sector as well in these days, so that the existing stock could be utilized effectively, because as per the reports, as per the statements by different ministers, that we have like a sort of surplus stock of fertilizer as of now.
All right. So let's hope for the best. Let's hope this doesn't trickle down to effects that could endanger not only other countries, but also Pakistan as well, being one of the most susceptible countries when it comes to climate change. Thank you very much, Asad Mahmood, to have joined us, climate change expert, and of course discussing the effects of the war, different kinds of ecological, environmental effects of the war that could endanger countries such as Pakistan. Thank you very much to have joined us. Let's now take you to Operation Ghazab Lil Haq, that is continuing successfully and delivering a decisive and uncompromising response to terrorism emanating from the Afghan soil. In the Tal and Job sectors, Pakistan's armed forces have destroyed multiple Afghan Taliban posts and have forced militants linked to Fitna al-Khawarij and to flee their positions. These operations send a clear message. Pakistan will not tolerate cross-border terrorism or safe havens that threaten its citizens and security forces. Even the United Nations has warned that Afghanistan under the Taliban regime has become a hub of extremist groups. Pakistani actions are therefore not aggression. They are legitimate self-defense under international law. As Islamabad has repeatedly stated, these operations will continue until terrorist infrastructure across the border is neutralized and Pakistan's sovereignty is fully protected. 641 killed, 855 plus injured, 243 checkposts destroyed, 42 posts captured and destroyed, 219 tanks, armored vehicles, artillery guns destroyed, 65 terrorists and terrorist support locations across Afghanistan effectively targeted by air. These are just some of the points that I wanted to highlight with you as far as Pakistan's operational statistics and capabilities are concerned. We have been joined by two eminent guests to discuss this in more detail. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by our very own head of the PICS. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. Abdullah Khan Saab, it's a pleasure to always have you in the studios, and I thought you'll be online, but it's good to see you here. And we've also been joined by Ali Kamran Chishti. He's a senior security and geopolitical expert and joins us from Riyadh. Thank you very much, Ali, to have joined us as well. And of course, let's see how things move along. Abdullah Saab, the United Nations warns that terrorist organizations operating from Afghanistan are a threat to regional stability. This is a recent statement that has come, and it adds to many other statements that have emanated from the UN as well. Does this validate Pakistan's long-standing position about cross-border terrorism?
not just this report, but all the UN Security Council sanction monitoring teams, every 6 months, they validate Pakistan's point that Afghan soil is being used against Pakistan. And there is another point which was raised by the President of Pakistan, Asif Ali Zardari, recently, that Afghanistan is once again becoming a terror hub, just like prior to 9/11. So that is the situation is happening in Afghanistan right now. Not just TTP and BLA and others, but Al-Qaeda is also growing. Daesh is also operating from Afghanistan. There are many other groups. Recently, the Foreign Ministry of Russia, they also have released a report mentioning that at least 23 hardcore militants are there in Afghanistan. 23,000, yes. I said something else?
You said 23.
Oh, 23,000, yes, 23,000. And 22 different militant groups, by the way, and 23,000. And the major chunk is Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. And very important aspect is that the TTP tries to project itself that it is just limited to Pakistan, but recently we have seen that Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan's banners with their flags and their gang leaders' pictures were in Gaza. So they are also trying to project themselves globally. Recently we have seen people joining from Bangladesh into Tehreek-e-Taliban. So it is a regional, evolving into a regional threat. People are joining from other countries as well. And this is Pakistan's standpoint that Afghan soil is being used against Pakistan. And the problem is that Afghan authorities, the Taliban regime, they are not listening to all these reports.
Pakistan has tried so many different tactics. It has gone there. It has tried to make it understand. There have been formal talks that have been held in different countries, but nothing has happened as far as that is concerned.
They have just one-liner. And I am surprised how they are running the government. They just, Afghan soil is not being used against us. What the hell is this?
I mean,
we have sent our defense minister, DGISI, interior minister, foreign minister, and so many ministers went there and requested them that we have just one little issue of terrorism, nothing else.
But that is not, that is falling on deaf ears, so as to speak. Ali Kamran Chishti, thank you very much again to stay with us. Pakistani forces have destroyed militant posts in both the Thal and Job sectors. What does this tell us about the precision and effectiveness of Pakistan's current military strategy? How important also is intelligence-based targeting in operations like Ghazab al-Haq when dealing with cross-border militant infrastructure?
Well, that's everything. So what we are seeing is, of course, there are two dual strategies which Pakistan is taking. One is, of course, the punitive deterrence, where Pakistan has decided that any terrorism inside Pakistan, the cost of it has to be borne by anybody who's ruling Kandahar or Kabul. Of course, inside we are, of course, taking intelligence-based IBOs, of course, operations, which is precisely targeted. And one of its more, the newer, of course, the contemporary IBOs, what we see is now is actually held by the signals and human intelligence, which is on ground. So if you see these intelligence IBOs compared to the last ones, of course, we see these are more precise, well-targeted, well-coordinated, backed by signals and qualitative intelligence, which is important. And that's what's bringing in the results. Other aspect is I would like to commend not just our intelligence agencies, which are actually helping the ground forces inside Pakistan, but of course, the local help which we are getting. The narrative building which Pakistan has did at least in the last 3 to 6 months has helped locals to bring out a lot of intelligence from inside, because the narrative of the TTP or the Afghan Taliban is absolutely shattered. So the locals have started helping, which is a big win for the security forces. So if you look at these actions in Zob and of course in all these areas, they're precisely targeted, well coordinated, held by the locals, and of course they're precise. So we don't have any casualties from our side. Of course, we are killing those, of course, sweeping those terrorists inside, which of course is stopping the launch pads. I could talk about, on a strategy in Afghanistan, which is pretty different. What we have is a dual sort of a strategy in Afghanistan with regards to the Afghan Taliban, where we have an understanding that, of course, the Afghan Taliban regime is, as of course your of course guest rightly said, of course, are irrational. So of course we understand, of course, that they are part of the problem. With that, we have also an understanding going inside that, of course, that they don't have the capacity to take on the TTP or the BLA, or of course anybody who's dealing there. So we have this dual strategy inside Afghanistan. A is to hit where it hurts inside on Kandahar, Kabul, any camps which we know by air using a long range vectors. Second is to understanding, of course, the capacity. We are actually taking some forward check posts. We are building some sort of a security zone come slash uh, buffer zone inside Afghanistan at about 16 to 18 locations where we understand there were launching pads. And the results are there. If you look at the data from last a month or so, at least from last 2 weeks, terrorism has gone down, not just in the KP or, of course, the hot areas or hot spots, but, of course, in Balochistan as well. What does that tell you? That tells you that of course, it was always an external problem. Yes, we had issues inside, and of course, there were pockets inside Pakistan, but of course, they were minimal. But the problem was, of course, outside. And the head of the snake in this, the learning curve in all this exercise is that the head of the snake is in Afghanistan, and that is in the shape of Afghan Taliban, who are backed by the Indians, and of course, Al Qaeda and all these organizations. Yes.
All right, all right. Stay with us, Ali. Abdullah Khan Saab, reports indicate hundreds of militant casualties, dozens of posts destroyed. Our Minister for Information is quite proactive in highlighting that through his tweets. What does this suggest about A, the scale of militant infrastructure that operates from the Afghan territory? B, recently our Foreign Office spokesperson has said that he has not received any credible assurances. This was a statement that came from Kabul regarding stopping terrorist attacks. What does this statement also indicate as far as the Taliban regime's control over militant groups within the Afghan soil is concerned?
One thing let me clarify is that this time Taliban directly attacked Pakistani military positions. So Pakistan, in response, exercising its response, Pakistan is now targeting the infrastructure of Afghan military run by the Taliban government. So our main aim was to dismantle those infrastructure of Afghan military, which was facilitating these terrorist groups for infiltration into the Pakistan. So main target was not the TTP targets, but the military targets of Afghan Taliban. They are dismantled. Those posts which were facilitating the infiltration, they are destroyed. Many of them are captured, and many camps deep inside of the Afghan military were destroyed. And during the process, many because they were jointly used by TTP and the Afghan Taliban forces. So Afghan Taliban forces had actually handed over their infrastructure for the TTP. So that is actually effectively neutralized along the border at many places. So that is effectively. So this is a very effective blow. Its outcome is it will not be immediate.
Right.
What we have noticed is that the militants are trying to portray that we are operating here. They have stepped up their low scale attacks, but the high profile attacks, as the other panelists have highlighted, high profile attacks have gone down. The low profile attacks, like destroying a camera, appearing here and there, some target killing, they have gone a little bit up. So to making a point that no, we are operating here. But effectively, the last month we have seen 5 suicide bombing in single month. But this month, so far, we have not seen any kind of that militant attack. So that is the impact we have so far of the Pakistani operation
All right, the last question goes to the both of you. I'll begin with you, Ali. I'd like to understand one very important thing. Looking ahead, what combination of military pressure, diplomatic engagement, and regional cooperation would be necessary to ensure Afghanistan no longer serves as a launching pad for terrorism against Pakistan? What's your take? I'll begin with you, then I'll go to Abdullah.
Okay, that's a very interesting question, because what is the end game in Afghanistan? I don't think there is one. With Pakistan, I think there is a policy understanding, and this is from the information I know, that of course Afghanistan would always be a perpetual problem for us. Of course, it's a failed state. It would be. So our long-term assessment is that, of course, we have to make Afghanistan stable. Now, how do we make it stable? Of course, Afghan Taliban wouldn't let it happen, because you see we over 45, 46 terrorist organization from East Turkmenistan movement to, of course, Al-Qaeda sitting there with TTPs and BLAs and all sort of wackos there. So the policy understanding in Islamabad, of course, at least at the military circles of people who look at Afghanistan, is that, of course, there has to be a regional approach to this. And and for that, Pakistan has gone to Turkmenistan, Iran, even to China and the United States, which are in agreement that, of course, the capacity of Afghan Taliban has to go down. For that, Pakistan has attacked and diminished.
I'll continue with Abdullah Khan because we are short of time. Abdullah Khan, what's your take on this?
You know, we are fighting for the global peace. Pakistan was left alone last time and this time as well. America and all the forces gone back, and we are left to fight with this menace of terrorism. This is a global phenomena. This is a global problem. The world should actually assist Pakistan. And recently, we have seen that China is stepping in. The Chinese foreign minister, he talked to Pakistani foreign minister, and they are perhaps, he said that our special envoy for Afghanistan is busy in engaging with Pakistani and Afghan authorities. So we are hopeful that something may come out with the Chinese mediation, because that is important, because it is not just Pakistan's alone fight.
Exactly. That is true, and with so many other countries being involved, so many other countries being affected by terrorism emanating from Afghanistan, I think it's high time that the countries got together and evolved a strategy that could effectively thwart all the designs that such terrorist outfits have within the Afghans. Well, thank you very much, Abdullah Khan Saab. Thank you very much, Ali Kamran Chishti, to have joined us as well. Till next time, as I said, thank you very much to have been part of this show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last show of this week. We brought you issues that continue to boil, to simmer across the world, and we bring you perspective so that you can understand and make an informed decision by yourself. We'll continue to do that in the weeks to come as well. Have a great week and weekend ahead, and I'll see you inshallah next Monday with all the important topics that are affecting the world at large. Till then, Allah Hafiz.